we go.
Yay.
But yeah, I don't know if we want to, for the final haul towards 14.1, set up either some smaller deliverables, like smaller chunks or things, or like how you think, and we should also loop in Holly, just how we might structure this going forward so that we have something to show engineering.
Right. No, I'd be down.
Start.
I feel like that's what I was trying to do. And then we kind of went big instead, but I'm totally down to get like, what do we need for MVC? Like kind of stricter requirements. And that doesn't mean we can't keep thinking big, but just to scope it to what we need immediately kind of thing.
I think we should make sure that we capture what we did in the think big as well, so that's not lost, and whether it needs more iteration, like some of like the left right views, and Holly could get involved with that, but that should still spin off some work product so that we make sure that we do follow that line and like keep going on the best way to use an issue.
Yeah, there's two concerns. Like the think big stuff is sort of necessary for when front end starts refactoring things to using Vue Apollo. And if there are big structural changes, if not, then it's not that big of a deal. And then the like, what is the MVC is important for backend to define the architecture. If that makes sense.
Yeah. And there was some differing opinion between, I should have Mark on these meetings as well, but like Mark wanted backend to define it and then design follow backend, and we're going the other way around where we're trying to have UX define it, the relationships and what they need to be, and then they would write the spec to that. But there'll be some definite overlap between that in terms of what's possible.
That makes sense.
Who defines what we're going to actually implement.
Everyone, I guess. It's a trade-off, I guess. If it's not possible, we figure out why and push back if we want to. It is, as much as we can.
So why don't we summarize, not today, but like summarize the think big at where it's at for project planning, so they have like, those things are sort of, we know what to look at once we start looking with the EMs. And then do we want to present some of that? Maybe Holly could share it in the kickoff, some of what she's thinking.
And do we kind of like finalize those? I mean, are we going to be validating the ideas, or are we just kind of like going with ideas?
I was hoping we'd be validating throughout this, but I don't know if we have been.
I'm not building anything till it's validated. So
yeah, I agree. I don't know if we like. Yeah, that makes sense. I think it's good that we set that.
So how do we validate? That's probably the next question on the think big ideas, and maybe that can take its own track. I don't really want to confuse the team too much if we aren't building like commenting now and we're focusing on the hierarchy. Maybe we shouldn't present it in the engineering kickoff, but I don't know how
I'm kind of wary of presenting things. Yeah, they're not validated, right? Like if we don't have a clear.
Well, I think there's the constraints on this originally is let's think big, but we're not gonna build any new features for the refactor. So like if we need to basically like what I was asking for is like, let's think big, but then let's think about if we need to restructure the way that the issue view is laid out with the existing things, start with that, right? And so I think part of what Holly's doing is thinking big so that if we do need to restructure what we have now without building anything new, it makes sense. And I think that's what she should present is like, here's what you can do on the issue today, and here's what we want it to look like. Basically, it's more of like doing a information architecture restructure than building a new feature at this point.
We didn't really even get into should it be center aligned like a modal? Should it always be in a sidebar? There's still a lot of open questions that aren't validated about that new view.
I'm wondering if if it makes sense, since Alexis is here as well, if like Holly can keep iterating on that and we can like put together validation and tests and experiments and stuff like that, and then Alexis could drive the relationship stuff, and like because that's super complicated in and of itself, and then like I see the two being able to meet up pretty well by the end of this if we want to take that approach too.
Does that work for you, Alexis?
So we would separately work on each thing?
In a parallel path, you'd work on relationships and like how are those going to look in the new issue view, and she'll figure out and validate things like, should it be in the sidebar, should it be centered modal, how should the top title look, like the things she was saying, like you could click on it to edit. She had some cool ideas about that. I'm sure you've also got ideas on that too, but we were kind of like doing the same thing for a while there, both designers. And I know at the start you had proposed this kind of like two divergent, like parallel paths that would come together, but
yeah, I think the intention was we'd come up with a bunch of ideas and then like validate them, but it's, you know, deadlines, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any that you've done over this time that you would still like time to validate? Or would you like to just switch on to relationships and validating that?
Well, I'm out of office next week, so it makes it a little hard. But when I'm back, I could go over a few things. I guess that's like the nature of it's difficult, like pairing on things like this. But I probably will, just because it's important to me to validate some of these ideas, and then I can focus more deeply on relationships, if that makes sense.
So when you're back after the 1st, I guess it looks like.
I will be out of office next week. I think that's what, until the 4th or something like that.
Oh, okay. Let me check here.
I feel like I'm always like try to go out of office right when some big project happens. Funny.
Yeah, till the 4th. So the 7th of June. Okay, you're back. So maybe we have Holly work through validating or wrapping up the big think big and coming up with the plan of what still needs to happen with this think big work. And so that would give her like a week while you're off as well. She can like think about that and really focus on that. Some of her good ideas around like editing titles, sidebars, tabs. Do we have things we can validate? Maybe we can get that to a more ready to go state. And then when you're back online, we'll kick into hierarchies, and we'll already have had the blueprint discussion started. So there'll be some like conversations around database structure or how these things go. Would that make sense?
Yeah.
Gabe, does that work for you? Does that make sense overall?
Yeah, whatever works for me. I'm here, like, just however designers want to do it, really.
I can go over some ideas today, but they might be kind of diverging from other ideas. I don't know. I'm kind of like,
you're allowed to do that.
Very low
Do
back. Cool. Also, I had a question about like, I guess you have this all attached already, Gabe, like the multi-tree. Just wanted to make sure I understand what you're intending there.
It's just like a multi-tree. Like the basic idea is that an issue can belong to more than one thing at the same time. So practical example, an issue could be assigned to more than one project and it would show up in both projects, or an issue could be assigned to more than one parent of the same kind and it would show up that way. Because the big challenge right now is that our hierarchies are too siloed and it doesn't allow for cross-pollination of information. So you have to pick, like, this happens all the time with epics. Like epics get hijacked by other teams that want to also like pull up some issue or sub epic that relates to their work as well, right? And you can't do that. So it's that basic idea where you can have more than one sort of parent. That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's a tree that's going across to other trees.
It's technically
Almost.
called a directed acyclical graph in engineering terms, or
Fine.
yeah,
What
a
did John call it?
hierarchical network.
Linked lists?
Linked nodes or linked lists,
Linked
maybe.
nodes. It reminds me of a tagging taxonomy a little bit as well, but like with a little more formality, where you can kind of just link things in.
It's worth noting that this solving this problem is the most important problem that our largest customers that want to adopt Plan want us to solve, just in Plan as a whole. So
It would be so cool when this works.
All right. Cool.
Is that
Treating.
enough to go on, Alexis?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think that's what I was thinking, but you know how it is. I'm like, I think I know what you're talking about, but I should probably check. Let me see if I can share my screen. I really miss my monitor right now.
Welcome
yeah,
to
this is
my
all-
world.
Right? Let me move the little head. So cool. Yeah,
I can hear like a parrot or something.
I don't know what it is. It's just a very loud little bird. But yeah, what am I looking at here? Okay. My brain is like blipped out this morning. But yeah, I was kind of thinking about like more kind of real-time collaboration on these collabjects, palamjects. I don't know. And just starting with like the title and description, like we've been talking about. And let me just try to decipher my own thoughts here. But yeah, even thinking about like, what is the copy we want to start with here? So if it's like any object, do we even want to say description, for example, right? Or is it just like start typing something? Like maybe it's not a description, so we don't want to be, yeah, subjective there. So
Prescriptive.
Prescriptive, yeah. Thank you.
Slash is just like Notion, which I love. I know that would be
a
so
few
cool
do
if we had
that. Yeah, a few do that. So yeah, you can use the slash commands, or I think there's a few other ones that have like literal buttons too, or we could do both. So yeah, and then you can add like, this is like, let's say a drop down, right? To add in something, you know, whatever the slash commands are.
Could be
And
like
then you could
upload an
select that
attachment,
widget.
upload a design,
Anything, right? Yeah, so this is like the
insert a
let's say.
table. Yeah.
Yep. And then you have, you know, this block moves down there. And then if they click out, then it becomes more of like that view mode versus edit mode. So like the one thing I looked at, I'll link y'all, I did like a quick study on inline editing, and it's good for things, especially in the sidebar, well, our current sidebar, right? That are immediate and are like binary. But if there's too many hover states within the actual content of the page, like it gets kind of hinky. So I'm trying to figure that out. Like, do we need it explicit, like view versus edit? Yeah, it's like research how annoying an arrow prone it would be for inline editing, right?
Did you look at tip tap as well? I don't know if you missed that from the last one, but
Tip tap. Okay.
It's not necessarily slash commands. I don't think it's more of a WYSIWYG that supports blocks. But that's what the editor team is implementing for GFM.
Yep. Like my
just something to check. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I don't know. I mean, I would like to like get rid of the idea of like a preview versus right.
If we could go right into edit mode the way Notion does, that would be sick. I would love it.
So then you just, like I said, you have to make sure it's still usable and mobile, right? Which some of that stuff is not very usable, like, you know, if you're doing inline stuff. And you want to make sure people aren't going to be like accidentally editing, or they're just trying to view the thing. And like anytime they hover, all this stuff is happening, which could get annoying. So it's just a thing to think about. I was just playing around with different ways to do this. Let me think. So instead of having just like slash command, have like literal like options, right? Adding a widget, same kind of thing. Like either the widget could be added, like it's inline experience here, or it's another drop down. This is another thing that saw multiple products do that is kind of like makes sense. This is more of kind of the WYSIWYG, and this doesn't really have to be a box. This is just lo-fi, but like having kind of the options menu.
I like that
well.
plus block. Yeah.
Yeah.
For people who are not as like, are knowledge workers, knowledge user persona would probably hit the plus button more than wanting to use a slash.
Right.
Right.
Yep. So I think, and it doesn't have to necessarily be a plus, but yeah. And so then, yeah, you could reorder, right? So even like I haven't typed anything yet, but I could still move things around. When it's like already added, maybe it's a different menu, right? And there's like alter it, move it, delete it, whatever. What was I thinking here? Oh, like just kind of like a change log, right? So whenever you're maybe in that view mode, you could see the history of changes. Maybe this is like a drawer, like a slide out or something. You see kind of like Google Docs and like just anything, like mural, anything. Maybe you can even see like diffs and then go into a menu and revert back to the old version, something like that. I was thinking about kind of different ways to display options as well. So instead of having like slash commands, maybe you can have different little toolbars, like literally like Figma has it right here, right? So when I am typing, I have a kind of like object or widgety toolbar, right? So these are from like our commenting area. That's what I took it from. So these are like structural versus when I'm actually typing, or let's say I've highlighted some text, then I get the other options that are more like text edity ones, right? And then maybe we can add things like, oh, comment. So like if I click this comment button, it pops up a comment. So like literally, like if I was looking at your epic this morning, Kristen, I could highlight some text there and be like,
That'd be
oh,
cool.
like add this to the draft. Yeah. When just thinking about like, okay, what happens to the toolbar when I'm typing, just little things like that. And then when it applies, thinking about what that looks like, right? And then is it going to be a suggestion that I could apply, or should it be a comment, like things like that? Or could it be both, right? Maybe you add a suggestion or a comment. And then maybe adding in different options here, like, okay, maybe I can select the text and then assign someone to this thing, right? Like this is a task that I've written, and either the task inherently has the option to assign or due dates or stuff like that, or I can access it from this toolbar and say, okay, I'm assigning this to Alexis, here's the comment, here's the due date. I don't know why this is on everything. Go away line. And then it's assigned, and then who knows, maybe it just has like the little due date thing. What was I doing here? I don't know. And then thinking through that a little further, this is just different ways to kind of display it. Like what would onboarding look like? You know, maybe we even have like little templates here. And then thinking about the idea of like, I don't know what we call these, like metadata basically, but like applying metadata to the entire object, right? So this is, you know, planning object.
Like if it's an epic or
Yeah,
something,
so,
and you're saying I want to label everything in that's under me.
Yep.
I like that idea.
Yeah. So these, like this, right, is related to planning epic A. But then, and then when I like click this, again, this is like lo-fi. I don't know what it exactly looks like, right? But maybe there's another thing of options, right? And it's like, okay, I want to add the label metadata block or an assignee or a due date or time box, like all those little things. And then it adds that, and then you assign whatever. I mean, we go through that experience, of course, right? So it's kind of like,
I like
custom.
that.
Yeah. And
Bulk
then
editing, but better in a modal or something.
right.
Or one click.
And then I was thinking further about that, like, okay, so all these weird ideas. But anyway, I'm like, okay, maybe we also have an edit mode. So that was like thinking through that again. And when edit mode is on, I could like edit any block. So let's say I'm like either hovering or like clicked or whatever the interaction is, I'm accessing this table. Maybe there's like another kind of like toolbar option there, just edit, like style this table. Or maybe we take it even further. And again, this is gonna look janky, but like this, when I'm editing one block, let's say, right, I get its own little toolbar area. And from here, maybe like I can add metadata to this entire work item, and then I could also add metadata to this block. So let's say I select the table, I get this toolbar, and like maybe this is, let's say this is like the add metadata. And again, let's name that something else section. I click that, and then I could add like a label. I can add assignees to just this block, whatever it is, right? So in that way, I could almost like exactly what you said, Kristen. So like maybe this is an epic, and then like I'm adding this, and this is actually an issue, almost.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Gabe, you're like, what?
I like.
No, I
Might
mean,
be
it
weird.
makes sense to me.
Yeah.
I wonder too if we could give, this is probably out of scope for it, but like some kind of indicator that you're not consistent, like 3 of your 20 issues in this epic having consistent labels, or like some kind of like analytics on top of it that just gives you a little pointer to bring it back into check. Maybe you intended that, but like it could just highlight discrepancies or something.
Sure.
A summary view, like you've got 20 issues, 19 are in one project, 1 is in another, and like maybe that's right, but like you're just kind of realizing just from some high level metadata, you're seeing some kind of a summary you could open to see consistency.
Yeah, makes sense. I put a timestamp so I can look back at that. But yeah, and then like, so here's that overall toolbar, where again, I could maybe instead of having this, like this would actually should be gone. Like instead of having this up here, it's just like add metadata to the entire thing, add metadata to one thing, add a collaborator. Like this is basically the sidebar, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I could turn edit mode off, and then I get like view mode, whatever that looks like, right? So like then I see all the data. I see collaborators, notifications, all that, whatever. So I'm playing around with this, just thinking about like what this could look like. But
I think that could be cool too if that list switched from like, is it a grid? Sorry, I should have checked. Are those like each box is an issue, or are they columns across a grid?
this is just a table. I'm just having fun with
Oh,
this.
it's a table. Okay. Okay.
So literally,
so it
like
would have
maybe.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Oh, and I assign the table. Who knows? Whatever. Crazy idea. Whatever. Or you're just adding a bunch of text blocks, and then like it's just like its own little contained thing, and then assigning that thing. So just the idea of like these blocks, I guess, basically, and then having those almost be the issue, and then like the object is just like a grouping of things. And it could be an issue in itself, right? Or it can be like a collection of things, however you want to do it. So that's like the basic idea of that. And then what else is going on here? My crazy thoughts everywhere. Playing around with breadcrumbs and stuff. I won't get into that too much. I was thinking about like the epic tree and how that's kind of difficult to navigate, and thinking about like if there's different ways to visualize it. And Figma made everything stack weird here, but like thinking about doing a column view instead, basically. So, I select Epic 2, it opens up this column, right? It's, like a navigating a folder structure, basically, right? So instead of a tree structure, it's a column structure. And then
like a rollout menu, like a massive rollout, essentially.
Yeah, and you're just scrolling left to right, and maybe this could be sticky or not, I don't know. But like,
I would love that if for my core epic, I have like one epic, which is my HQ. If I could have that on a sidebar and just roll out to everything, oh my God, it would be so good. I could find anything in a second.
There's a comment on that extensible, the relationships issue that I linked that has an interesting idea too for showing like the hierarchy, but making it all visual so you don't have to expand and collapse everything. You can just like in one snapshot see the status of like everything through your tree.
Ooh, that'd be cool.
That caught my eye, something interesting too.
I'll have to take a look. Yeah, because this one is good, but I'm just trying to think. I'm like, do I have it in here? The idea of moving things around is a little bit harder in a column, right? Because let's say I'm in Epic 2 right now, and I'm seeing Epic 2's entire contents basically, right now. And if I wanted to, let's say, I'm looking at the details for issue A right now. If I wanted to move issue A into Epic 4 and then like further down into Epic 4, it's a little harder. So the interaction, so I'm thinking like maybe it'd be like you click issue A, and instead of drag and drop, it's like clicking, like I click it, I select it, and then I click and I could like click around, and then there's some kind of like you know,
Yeah.
call to action there, and then maybe there's, you know, saying like, okay, confirm the move, something
I
like
almost
that.
feel like the one on the far left, the column on the far left, where you kind of have the
Mhm.
root epics.
Yeah,
Like if you want to truly move something into that, like it's probably fine to just drop it into that, and you can deal with it later by opening it up
Mhm.
and just seeing the detail on that one. Oh, that's
Okay.
cool, that view.
Yeah, this is what I'm thinking. Like,
Yeah.
so this is like the one I'm picking up, right? This is, again, I'm trying to decipher my own thoughts, but yeah, having some indication, and then like you obviously can't drop it on an issue, so like indicating like things that are not
Mhm.
valid to drop on, stuff like that. And then, so the interaction is a little different, but could work. And then thinking about other views, so you know, having breadcrumbs at the top, and then having like almost like a table view here, right, of all the issues and contents of that specific epic. So you're like drilling into an epic or a tree, drilling into the tree here, and you're not seeing everything within the tree, but you're just like drilling down to
That's
see
cool.
like, what is the content. And then
So I could go up to the third level there if I wanted to. I could go up a level ahead
however
like,
many,
in the
just like,
breadcrumb.
So,
Okay.
and then networky view. So I was thinking like literally like these are just almost like Figma, right? Like I'm like, okay, like, and you know, draw dependencies between them. Okay, here's this epic, and you know, so it's
Like a canvas view, you can just move
yeah,
things
like
around.
a canvas view. And then
That would be sick.
maybe
I would love that.
yeah, that's really cool, right? And then,
Freeze
like,
frame it. That would be a good view to have, like an optional view, and it could save where you put things.
And I don't know how far you would zoom out. That would probably be a performance nightmare, but it might be kind of interesting. And then like having like options, right? Like, okay, add an epic. Either it would be like something like this, like add item at the end of each area, or you're explicitly saying like, okay, add a link, or add related to, or add work item, you know, that kind of thing, or add epic. But having some view kind of more like that. And then you can see kind of, I guess to your point, Gabe, maybe if there's some items with a million little things originating out of them, like branches, and you're like, okay, this thing needs to be done like now. Maybe they even get bigger or a different color or something. I don't know. Depending on
It's
like how
got
many
like
things go into
like 1,000 relations. It's a blocker for 100 other things. That'd be cool to see here.
Just have it zoom to it constantly. And then IA stuff. I don't know. This is old. Where is it? Just thinking about with our existing data, where could things be located, like the structure of it, but I think we want to move away from this anyway, so that's okay. Anyway, that's what I'm playing
That's
around
really
with
cool.
at the moment. Boom. I don't know, but I'll keep playing around with these. I was looking at the hierarchy stuff the other day, which I think it would be interesting to have different views within one item even, and then like that's where those tabs are, right? Kind of like our roadmap epic tree tab, but like a better version of that, I guess. So
better breadcrumbs, because I always see ... when I'm in an epic and I'm trying to like scope it back to the project, and I look up and it's like, I don't know, the breadcrumbs.
yeah, the
when you're
breadcrumbs,
deep.
like I was thinking, I don't know, I can't find all my ideation sometimes, but like, could the breadcrumbs be the parentage too, right? Should it be like epic list and then ancestor, this epic, or like, I guess I'll share my screen.
Especially when we have them on groups and projects, we'd be able to do that.
Yeah.
Because you could really have its line all the way back to its project or group.
It could also be, go ahead, Gabe.
No, you please.
Oh, no, I was just, thinking about that.
Although
like,
if we have multiple.
Is it like a
multiple
widget?
parents.
I know. Yeah, so whatever, we can keep playing around with that. What were you saying, Gabe? Sorry.
Oh, I was going to share my screen and kind of tell you,
please do.
just for a second. I didn't design anything, but in terms of like the widgets and then like tabs or whatever on an issue, I was sort of kind of thinking about this because they're going to get more complex. Like you have the design manager where you can kind of see, you can see that there's something there to interact with. And then when you click on it, it takes you to a like more immersive experience. But a smaller example is this is like something a community contributor added recently where before we just had time tracking, it just showed you this, but now you can click on that and you can kind of go in and see more details. So like almost like you'd have these little widgets on the main view that would then open up into another tab or some sort of more immersive experience within the issue. That's sort of one of the things I was thinking. And then the other I was just going to show real quick is this is the 2.0 beta of TipTap, and it sort of lets you do all sorts of different things. Like you can have nodes that in each node can be whatever you want it to be. So this is like a drawing node, right, within a thing, and you can also like type underneath it, or you could have no formatting bar, or you can completely customize them whatever or however you want. And then
cool.
you could also do let's see, where is
I like
it?
the drawing one, although I need some kind of stylus.
Yeah. So this is just like, this is the text editor that you can type in, right? But then it also has like this view component, which means like if you want to have widgets that were interactive, you can put build interactive like interactivity directly into the editor view and have it be completely customized.
Which
and
is
then
one thing we had in design management is a voting app built into every issue. So let's say you have 3 designs, you could have people vote on them. That would be a cool widget to build with buttons.
Yeah. And then you could also like drag and drop stuff around, like images, moving images around. And you can think about doing this like with any little widget or component or thing that is inside of the editor as well. So it kind of like intermixes typing. If you wanted to make like the issue view just a big blank canvas that you would have different zones for typing different things, you could have like different Texas areas that intermingled images. You could have a different like nodes that have different widgets and things like that. So I mean, the underlying technology is going to be there to do some creative stuff if we want.
Yeah, it's almost like a design management node, and then it has whether you create your own kind of thing.
I just pinged Eric Schurter on that too. He didn't have any open issues for attaching comments to blocks yet. Like you were mentioning before, you could potentially do that, but he's making the epics for that right now. So that's something they're going to do as well, is try to figure out how to attach comments onto these individual blocks or onto the text that you select, which could also work.
Cool.
Y'all are awesome.
All right.
Okay.
Talk to you later,
Thanks,
Gabe.
Gabe.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey.